Good morning.
Good morning. Wow, I'm gonna tell
Oh,
you, we're fighting something today. We're not fighting each other, we're fighting
mm.
something. We're sick in the
we,
McGurk household. We don't know what the heck is going on,
it's
but
like we've been playing hot potato with,
we've got a stomach bug.
yeah.
Here, let's put this down a little bit. We've got a stomach bug, and oh my gosh, we are not feeling the best. However, what we're here,
We're
right?
here.
No matter what, because we committed to be here, and so we are. Whoa, hanging on by a dear thread this morning,
Yeah.
and so we were going to talk. This came up yesterday. I had a conversation. There's not a lot of people that I really want to work with myself as to be guided by, right? Like there's few people in my world that I really look up to and admire and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to allow you to come alongside of me. And I'm very careful about who I choose as a mentor or, you know, like I'm probably a little bit over analytical. Like I really look at the whole thing and I say, do they have what I want? Are they able to give me what I need? Are they going to tell me something that I don't already know or help me inspire me in some way? And so, and I know a lot of people that I work with are the same way. Some people that I work with have watched me for years before they decide to actually uh, do something. My last client just said that to me. She's watching videos for 2 years before
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yesterday I was talking to this coach that I finally decided to partner with, and she's a business strategist, a business coach. And we were talking about, and she was doing like a needs assessment with me and figuring out, what's going on in my business and how am I doing and what makes it hard, what's hard. And it was really interesting because it was like there was nothing really hard, right? Like being consistent every morning is not hard, except when you have a stomach bug. That's not hard. I said, I guess the hardest thing is trusting the process, because the consistency is one thing and you keep going and you keep pouring your heart and soul, but how do you know that it's actually going to pay off? How do you have the trust that whatever you're going through, that at the end of it, you're going to feel better or you're making the right decision for you? And it's one thing to just say, well, trust the process, right? It's another thing to say the process you're doing is the right process. Because I could be trusting, well, just keep doing what I'm doing, keep hanging on, keep hanging in there, but all my strategies are wrong. And so it's really important sometimes to have somebody come alongside of you and just refresh you and say, what is it that you really want? What's the big vision for your life? Had a conversation with a client just yesterday that she keeps settling in these relationships that aren't for her. And I said, well, let's go back to your big vision. What's your big vision? And she explained it. I said, then at some point in your life, you have to make a decision that you're unavailable for anything else than your vision, then something, if it doesn't get me closer to my vision or help me on the path to my vision, then it's not for me. It's this scarcity mindset of not trusting the process that makes us settle, go back into that other relationship that we just left, or keep staying in that job that really isn't for us, because we don't trust that if we really let go, that we're going to be provided for, that things are going to work out in our favor. And so can you relate to this morning? We didn't have a topic, but I felt like it was on my heart to talk about, because I believe that the right person is hearing this morning that needed to.
Well, and then some of the other things that we need to look at, as Heidi shared, like looking at someone and do they have what I want? And sometimes we look at it too holistically instead of just drilling down and going, there's one area of expertise, and yeah, maybe they don't have what I'm looking for in another area, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to offer some valuable insight and advice. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we get locked into a bigger story rather than just going, okay, wait, no, I'm just going to take the advice on this, not on, like if I'm going to a health coach and, like, okay, I'm going to work out and they look amazing and all that. And then they start talking about finances and they're not doing so well. That doesn't mean I'm not going to take their personal training advice. And because I go, well, they're not making, or they're not saving or investing or doing whatever. No, I'm just not going to get business advice or financial advice from the health coach.
So when I think about this, has come up in my own life and it's come up in my client's life. And so when that's happening, I say, oh, that's what we need to talk about here, because I know that it's like a global consciousness, right? It's all in our minds. Trust came up yesterday with several people, including myself, texting and saying, okay, I know I need to end this thing. I know I need to, or keep going in this thing. It's either end it and walk away or keep persevering in it. But how do I trust? How do I trust the process? For me, a way that I can really trust the process is if I have somebody qualified that I really respect and admire to come alongside me and look at what it is that I'm doing. Sometimes we can't see the forest through the trees. I always tell this story, this John Maxwell story, like there's a goal. It's to clear the jungle. And there's a bunch of producers and their job is to get stuff done. They're down there hacking away at the brush. They're making sure that they're clearing it out. And the managers are behind the producers, critiquing of how they're doing. And then there's supervisors behind the managers writing manuals on how to be more efficient. But the leader climbed the tallest tree in the jungle, surveyed the land and went, wrong jungle. And sometimes we can't see the forest through the trees. We need a visionary to hold us to our own vision or help us get clear on our vision, and then actually say, well, let me look at you. Let me get an aerial view of your life and say, should you trust in this process? Are you doing everything that lines up with your ultimate vision and your ultimate goal? You can have negative trust. You can put your trust in the wrong things. You can put your trust in, I just have faith it's going to turn around. Oh, I just have faith. If I just keep sitting here, my soulmate's going to show up, or he's going to change, or that situation is going to turn around. Well, no, it's not, right? So sometimes we put our trust in the wrong things, and we don't put our trust in like the leap of faith.
And that's because it's where we're focusing on.
We're scared.
We're focusing on the fear. We're focusing on the pain, the past pains, or the future possible pains, rather than what's possible. And oftentimes those conversations are what's great when you have that with someone who can ask you those questions again. And even though we have our self-coaching and we're always looking at our goals and our aspirations and so forth, sometimes having the conversation and just having to speak what it is from a little different question just changes it. Oh my gosh. And that's where we have those next breakthroughs to take it to the next level. And remember the basics. That's the other thing. Sometimes we get so caught up that we don't trust the basics. We go through this, I know that.
It must be more complicated than that. It can't just be show up every morning at 6:30 and build your relationships. It can't just be, the bedrocks, right? Consistency, dedication, perseverance. It has to be more a funnel. It's got to be a complicated, complex system, and so also I think what makes us not trust, and that's a really good point, is that let's say you're trusting you need to end something and trust the net will catch you, right? Trust that something else better is waiting for you. And sometimes we're not even giving up really bad things. We're giving up kind of okay things, and that we're going from good to great, right? Like that book talks about. But sometimes we go, that's it. I know this isn't for me. I need to end it. And we pull the trigger and we go, that's it. Never again, end it. Well, what happens? Nothing happens for a while. Nothing great takes its place for a while. There's a lag time, right? And so all of a sudden we start to panic and we go, oh man, did I make the right decision? Even if you broke up with somebody that is not right for you, it's toxic, it's terrible.
And then you come home one night, it's a little lonely.
You're lonely as hell. And you go, yeah, he wasn't that bad. Well, she wasn't that bad. I mean, maybe I was the problem, It's like somebody that quits a bad habit. There's nothing more exciting in its place. The boredom gets the better of them, and they go, well, maybe I won't pregame. Maybe I'll slow my roll. Maybe I'll switch from beer to wine, It was that bad, but there's a lag time when you're amping and ramping up to welcome in the new thing that's meant for you, that's better. And so that's the trust in the process, is the lag time. It's the gestational period. Last time we really let go and let God, we were in the womb, like Wayne Dyer talked about, that you were a baby. You didn't worry if your eyelashes were going to come on time. You didn't worry if your arms were going to grow. You let it evolve because you had divine trust. You had ultimate trust.
What's the blessing and curse of being human?
Because then you're born and your ego goes,
thinking,
oh no, I can do better than this.
Yeah.
Thanks God, I'll take over now. And and we get into this thing. But also, we don't trust God. We forget the womb. We forget the perfection. And then I used to do that, where I'd be like, well, see how that works out, God. Yeah, okay. Because I thought God was a tester. I thought God was going to like show me or like give me problems on purpose. That was my vision of God. Well, God, as soon as you want something, God shuts the door. So you test your faith. You know what I mean? Like, I had all these opinions about what I thought was happening. And that wasn't a supportive opinion. That didn't inspire me to want to keep going. And so 2 things: have the aerial view, have somebody come alongside of you. If you need to have faith in the process, let somebody look at your process. That's just common sense, right? If you want something, like I've had my own coach going to come alongside of me and say, what's your vision? And she's going to look from an aerial view and she's going to go, that doesn't support what you told me you want. This seems to support it. This is a waste of time. I need that harsh kind of perspective. Maybe you do too. Maybe you need somebody to come alongside you. We'd love to do that. If it's relationship or success or any area of your life that you feel like you're not living into your fullest potential and you know you deserve better. And then the other thing is, if you know you're doing all the right things, don't be so impatient, right? Because there's a lag time.
It's the tortoise and the hare. You just gotta be focused on your outcome and just diligence, disciplined, consistent effort. And that's where the trusting of the process is trusting that I do the one thing today, and is it taking me that one step closer to my outcome?
Yes, today, because tomorrow is a series of todays. What you do today is, like John Maxwell has said many times. I don't even know why I keep saying I'm quoting him, because if it's coming out of my mouth, it's influenced. But he said, let me follow you for 24 hours. Show me a day and I'll show you your life. And that is so true. How you spend your day is a really good indicator. So we could look at that day and say, okay, I can see that this is going to be the result of your life, because this is how you spend your days. And it's not just today. How you do one thing is a really good indicator of how you do all things. So then the second thing is not just trusting the process, but now we're going to talk about trusting people in your life, right? A lot of you are in toxic or dysfunctional or come from toxic or dysfunctional relationships, and trust is a big issue for you. Trust was a big issue for me. We could talk about all the things that make you trust somebody, or how do you build the trust back. Like when I think about what makes you trust another person, even if you're like me and you don't trust a lot of people, you just trust yourself, right? What makes you trust somebody? Typical answers. Well, they have integrity, right? They say what they're going to do and they do what they're going to say.
Some people just go off of a feeling.
Oh, I just get that vibe about them. But here's the reality. I don't think integrity makes you trust somebody, because I could say, I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to tell you and do what I say I do. And I'm going to tell you I'm going to leave you. Or I'm not, I could say to you, I'm not the commitment kind of person, or I'm not really in this all the way, or I'm not really into you the way, and I could have integrity. I could be in alignment. But the problem is like, we don't hear people when they tell us who they really are. We don't trust when people tell us who they are. We don't trust that they know themselves better than we do, and we try to change them. We try to manipulate the situation. So it's not about that. It's not necessarily about, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, because I could be an idiot and a jerk and be consistent in that. Yeah. And then you don't trust me because you're like, well, that's not who you really are. Well, honey, yes, it is. It is who they are. You can trust people to be exactly who they are. It's our inability to see who people really are, because we don't see them how they are. We see them how we are. And we see people's potential instead of the reality, right? So what makes you really trust somebody, right? For sure and for real is really one thing. It's aligned values that I know you and I both know we have one thing in interest, and it's our best interest at heart.
And
your best interest I have in my heart. You're my best interest. Now I trust you because I know you have my best interest.
And we don't have those conversations very often. Like,
do you care more about your own selfish goals, or are you going to put my interests here? So yeah, I don't think it's about, I think what makes you trust us, okay, and what makes you believe in us is not that we say what we say and do what we do, is that when you come on here and watch these videos, you get a feeling in your heart that your best interest is what matters to us. And we communicate that to you because we believe that. And that's not something you can fake. That's not something, we don't come on here because we want our best interest. We come on here with a heart to serve you. You feel that, you resonate with that, and you go, ah. So how can you cultivate that more in your own life with the people around you? Can you do a checker with the people around you and say, do I believe these people have my best interests at heart? If the answer is no, and you're waiting to change them or waiting for them to be who you think they're supposed to be, trust is not coming, okay? Because that's a lie that you're telling yourself, is that they're gonna change. Just because you can see the best in people doesn't mean you can manifest it for them, right? People are who they are, amen. Right? And I know that some of you really need to hear that today. That's a special quality that you have. Well, I'll just have faith. I'll just trust that you can be the person I need you to be for me. Honey, no, they can't. And it's actually cruel when you do that to somebody, because it's like looking at a man in a wheelchair with no legs and going, if you love me, you'd walk. People can't walk with no legs. And people can't be kind, generous, affectionate, and attentive with no inclination to do those things. So trust who people are. Trust them. Stop seeing them for who you think they're supposed to be instead of who they really are. All right. That'll set you free. I know for me, when I was in my relationships initially and I didn't trust a lot of people, I was unwilling to allow the right people to come in. The right ones turned me off. I didn't want to be with the ones that really loved me and showed me genuine affection and attention. I didn't trust that. Now that's something. Why didn't I trust people's genuine affection? I thought they wanted something else from me, or I thought they were trying to manipulate me into something, or were going to use my vulnerability against me. I trusted the ones that were charming and charismatic and talkers and sweet talkers. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, I trusted men who I knew would disappoint me so I could be right. Right? Oh, I know, that's right. You can't trust anybody. So I purposely picked people I couldn't trust. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe you're the same way. And then you keep repeating this pattern with people in your lives and wondering, why do I keep picking people who I can't trust? Because your core belief is that people aren't trustworthy. Right? You can trust people to be who they are. You just have to let them be who they are. So now when I say, oh, I'm willing to receive, I'm willing to allow somebody to really come alongside me, really support me, that's when trust really starts. That's a hard thing for a lot of us. This is a really good start, allowing us as an exercise in trust, that you trust us every morning to come on here and pour love into you, pour wisdom into you, give you an encouraging word this morning that you can take through your day. And so that's a beautiful thing. But none of that works unless you wake up in the morning and trust yourself to turn on your computer or your phone, or you trust yourself to do what is in your best interest this morning. You can trust more people when you know you're doing the main ingredient first. You're trusting yourself to have your own best interest at heart. And that's not selfish, friend. That's exactly what you need to do.
And then that's what's going to create the space to attract.
That's right.
The other things that you want in your life. I mean, that's not to get into like the law of attraction and all of that, but that's what it is. Like you create the space, and then you're priming the pump with those energies, with that trust that allows that sacred space to be growing with others. And then as a community, as a tribe, as a holistic, as one, we are now all working together to create that incredible life. That's right.
And so to today, how can you take this word of trust into your life today, and how can you sow seeds of trust? I'm going to recommend that you don't go blindly with the people around you, that you just start trusting everybody around you right away, that you ask yourself, how can I trust myself? For me, it's my gut. When I woke up this morning, and I said, what needs to be talked about this morning? That's an exercise in trust, that letting my own inner intuition and wisdom come up from within and say, you need to talk about trust this morning. And then my responsibility is to heed my call. Your body is giving you signals all day long about what's right for you or wrong for you. You have what you call, that internal GPS system, right? And we talk about it in Under Construction. Here's your daily plug for the book. You're welcome.
We got the date it is June 19th
June
at
19th
the bookseller,
at the bookseller.
6 p.m.
So, you can still pre-order it, but we talk about your internal guidance system that it's your barometer. It tells you when to go left instead of right, or you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach. But what happens is that's your God-given gift. You don't need to, when you pick up the phone and you call see that person, you're like, oh God, there's just something not right. You have everything within you to already know, right? But what happens is confusion sets in when your gut travels to your second brain. This is your first brain, to your second brain, and gets confused and says, but I don't want it to be this way. And so you start to fight reality. And the minute you fight reality and you get into this headspace of self-righteousness, I want it to be this way. This is the way it's supposed to be for me.
It should be like this.
It should be like this. Then you throw off God. Okay. And then your ego edge God out. Okay. That's how that happens. You edge God out by going from your God brain up here, and then you lose your wisdom. Okay. That lives here. So tap into that today. How can you drop into your body today and be with yourself? When I'm sitting with my clients, I'll just say this, when I'm sitting with my husband, even if I'm, in a heated debate, and we're coming against each other, or feels that way, I could be in my head intellectualizing, what's he going to say here? How am I going to manipulate this? What am I going to say then? And then I lose my ability to trust that the right thing will need to come up, and the right thing will need to be said. And so if I just sit here and I say, well, how am I feeling? And check in with my body, well, I feel really sad. And there was one time we were in an argument where I was like expressing how I didn't want this specific thing. And I knew I was right about it, right? I knew I was right about it. I knew it wasn't fair, dynamic. And I'm proving my point, right? And I'm going in and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna prove this, right? And then I take a moment to check in with my body, and I look at my husband's face and the sadness that's on his face because he knew it was right. And so then I see that and I go, and he feels sad because his heart is my best interest at heart. He has my best interest at heart. I can trust him. All right. So even when I'm having this moment, he's feeling terrible, that he is feeling like he failed, or that he feels like he's not living up to whatever expectation he holds for himself in this area or whatever it is. And so I take a pause and I look at his face and I see the hurt and I check in. How's that feel? God, that feels terrible. That feels sad. I'm not on the right track. My mind wants to keep going. Yeah, and another thing, right? But my spirit says, honey, let it go, right? Hug your husband, hold your husband. He's hurting, you're hurting. And if I tap into that inner wisdom, it'll always tell me what's needed, because this question is, how can I be right? This question is, how can I be love? Okay, to myself, to other people, to the greater good. And so this is always a loving guidance. It's always going to tell you what's the most loving thing you can do. And sometimes it's to exit, honey. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is turn around and stop asking that man in a wheelchair with no legs to run a marathon for you, and move on to the next. Let him go. Release the hostages, I call that. Okay.
Well, and then other thing, Brian said something earlier about, sometimes think everyone is our friend. And that's such
right.
an interesting thing, because if you're talking with us, you come from that heart, and Brian is such a great guy, and very loving, and just sharing and gives. And I believe that probably if you're watching this, that's the kind of person you are, which we sometimes then get taken advantage of.
We see people how we are,
right?
Not how they are.
Right. So we're trusting and we're loving, and you're just giving and whatever, and then that can burn us out if we're not careful, right? That's the other challenge, is thinking the law of like reciprocity in that situation, that just because we gave to that person, that person is going to be reciprocating. And
that's why I say, you know what, don't give it if there is a reciprocity attached to it.
Right, exactly.
Right? Just give it to give it. Don't give it because you expect anything in return. And we talk about, are you strategizing or manipulating, or doing what's on your heart and what you believe in?
Right.
And
so
that's a big difference.
So do it because you believe in it, not because and that's not what I'm suggesting Brian did.
No.
But sometimes what happens is, because we're just so giving and we think that everybody is like us, we trust people with other situations or other opportunities that
oh my gosh,
think
people
they're
in
going
relationships all day long. I give to you. Your turn. No, honey, that's a taker. You're giving, they're taking. There is no give, it's give, take, right? There's no balance there. It's out of alignment.
Yeah.
So really good point. And we did that story about the bird with the plot and who's your friend, and you never know who's your friend. And that's really true too. And I had a dream the other day. I had a dream about a prehistoric alligator that was so huge. And my dad, who's passed on, was there with me. We were riding in like this truck on a safari, and we saw this big alligator. And when you dream of an alligator, it's like, okay, somebody's not your friend. You know what I mean? Like there's danger, there's this thing. And nobody wants to hear that, because we all want to believe, I know me, everybody has a big heart. Everybody has, but here's what I know for sure. If we're going around in our lives just always wanting everybody to be our friend, we're doing it wrong. There's, if you're vanilla and you're palatable to everybody, then you're kind of just leading this vanilla life, this mediocre. We talk about that, right? You're in the missionary position when you're in a sex buffet and you're wondering why it's not more fun, right? So the reality is like some people just don't like mint chocolate chip or Rocky Road or whatever it is, but that's okay. We know the more successful we are, the more people that are not going to be our friends, the more people that are going to come up, the haters are going to come and all that. And to me, that's a sign of success, because all motion causes friction. And if you're not moving, the faster you're moving, the more friction you're going to create, right? If you're trying to make fire, you got to rub some things and maybe rub people the wrong way. And that's okay. Because if you're going to go touch the hearts of the people that really know you are for, people have to know who you are not for. And that's the goal. So I used to say, your goal is to turn off as many people as possible so you can get to the turned on ones quicker. Our problem is when we try to turn on the turned off ones. I could spend all day long working on a light switch, no bulb in it. I ain't going to have the light shining on me. Okay. So it's time to move on from the people that aren't your people, and just pour your heart into the people that are your people. Don't waste any time. You can't afford to waste any time with the people that aren't your people.
Well, and that just becomes being present. And
knowing when somebody's not your people, and believing your people are in relationships with people that aren't your people, but you're trying to turn them into your people. Release the hostages. Okay. So I feel like this was a good topic this morning, even though we have the stomach bug. I feel like we delivered a good message. You want to check in with some comments, and let's see what you guys have said this morning.
Patience is hard
Patience is hard. Me too. I'm so impatient. Deb says you're right. Guess I'll take off those rose-colored glasses. Ooh, that's why they say love is blind, and the more chemically attracted you are to somebody, the more dopamine and neurotransmitters of well-being flood your brain and shut down your thinker, girl. Woo! Amen. Brian, for the gut.
Yeah, from Brian.
See people for who they are. Is that showing a lack of faith in humanity? Is that limiting others? No, honey, it's not a lack of faith in humanity. It is the ultimate faith in humanity when I allow people to be who they are. My problem when I hold people hostage to a higher expectation is believing that everybody's supposed to rise to some imaginary standard that I hold for the world. Everybody's not like everybody else. Well, there are locusts and there are honeybees. And locusts, their job in the world is to seek and destroy. And there are people on this planet, believe it or not, that are born perfectly functioning and not to be saved, changed, manipulated into somebody else. They are who they are. And the greatest gift for humanity that we can give people is to let people be who they are, not hold them hostage to our standard of who we think they're supposed to be. Oh, you're supposed to be a better human. No, you're not. You're supposed to be the human you are. And if you decide that you want to be a better human and you seek that out and you want to, then that's on you. But it's not up to me to decide how you're supposed to behave and who you're supposed to be. I'm only for the people that call on me, see, and seek me out and say, I want to rise to the occasion that I know is within me. I am the oak within the acorn. Help me get there. But it's not my job to go, hey, you're an oak. Come over here. Let me farm you. And that's self-righteous to me. Well, right? That's right. The opposite of what I want to be doing. That's the preacher on the street trying to convert the people who just don't want to be converted, okay, or don't need to.
Well, right, and that's also, Wendy, just being accepting of where they're at in that moment. That doesn't mean that it's our job to transform them. It's allowing them to be where they're at and then decide whether or not we want to be
Amen,
part
brother.
of it. That's
How
all.
we
It's
want to
not-
participate. Amen. Addiction is a great example of that.
Mhm.
It's, we can say, oh, it's not supposed to be this way. It's supposed to be that way for them
Yeah.
in that moment.
Right. Can they recover? Can they go? Yes, of course.
It's
And
not
we're
my
there.
job to have to do it on my timeline or tell people how they're supposed to behave. But if there's a call for hope or help, I'm there. Right? And then I'm in it to win it. Our problem is when we have to push against and rage against what is. When you fight reality, hell begins. The minute you accept reality, now you're going somewhere, right? And so that's really about the work that we do, is to help people accept what is. Byron Katie wrote a beautiful book called Loving What Is. The minute you fight reality, you engage in war. And you're at war with yourself, right?
Because that's also just perception.
It's all perception. Okay. Wow. I feel like that was a good talk today. Okay.
See if Ellie wants to check in.
Ellie, do you wanna
Thank
say
you, Iris. Thank you, Sally. You must be spiritually fit for the day, so trust to be easier.
Ellie's
That
not
is true.
feeling well this morning.
Yeah,
so.
and we're all there. Trust and accept someone doesn't mean we need to be okay with who they are.
Yeah, well, it doesn't mean necessarily that you need to prove. Okay,
Or change them.
Like I can accept somebody, but my feelings about it really are irrelevant, right? The lie is I need to feel good about it. I don't need to feel anything. I just need to release it and let it go. For me, the people that I've dealt with in my life that I've expected to play a role for me, there's this whole exercise that I do. If you're holding somebody hostage, a daughter, a father, a mother, a sister, a friend, somebody in your life that has hurt you tremendously, consider reaching out to me and going through a process I created called the Rapid Forgiveness Method. It will change your life. It's actually a 7-step process to release the hostages. If that's for you, go to my website, lovecoachheidi.com, send me a message and we can talk about how to get you there. This is not a one-stop conversation. These are things I do in my retreats. These are things I do one-on-one with people. And so there's an art to it. Trust me, it's taken me 7 years to invent this 7-step process. And 7's a good number. So it's not easy. Okay, but it can be done. And then you're never the same. When you can release, especially if it's like your mother or your father or somebody who really hurts you, that you're really thinking should be different than who they are. Oh my God, it's life-changing. Okay. Well, we hope you have a fantastic day today. We're going to nurse our bellies. I have a full day of clients today.
A bunch of meetings too.
And so we're going to do what we need to do. Woo! All right. We love you guys.
You guys
we'll
rock.
See you tomorrow morning.
And,
have a great day today.
We love you for who you are and who you aren't. God bless.
Bye, guys.
Talk to you soon.
See you soon.